feature presentation.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 115 of the Untitled Movie Podcast. I am one of your hosts, Matt Rohrbeck. Alongside, he's allergic to tomatoes, but he is tomato meter approved, Eric Marchin.
Happy Valentine's Day, Matt.
Yes, as we are recording, it is Valentine's Day. So, Eric, I hope you're having a wonderful day with your loved ones.
Sure.
Me.
I mean, it's the one day a year where it's acceptable.
Happy Valentine's from Saw. I did
Yes,
tag you.
yes. It's the one time of year where everybody can wear V-necks without being ridiculed.
Okay. I didn't think
Happy
you were going to go
V-Day.
there, but I love that. It is the day after the big game. I don't think you're allowed to say, for some reason, everyone always says big game because I feel like the actual title.
The Samuel Jackson movie.
Yeah. They're very particular of how and when you can use that term. So it is the day after the big game. I kind of briefly watched it. The LA Rams beat the Cincinnati Bengals. But more importantly, there were a ton of
Well, I was going to say,
trailers.
how much did you invest in cryptocurrency?
Oh my God. So this whole episode is going to be kind of like I know we recently put out the 114th draft, which you guys can check out. A really fun episode going over the Oscar nominations and different things like that. More of a classic episode, hella long, all that jazz. This episode is going to be purely reacting and talking about all of the trailers, both TV and movies, from the big game or the week leading into the big game. As well as maybe some of the commercials we saw last night, because some of them are movie themed. There was a Cable Guy trailer, a Austin Powers General Motors trailer, or not trailer, I keep calling it commercial.
Big
Eric
Lebowski.
Eric mentioned a cryptocurrency one with Larry David, and there was like 4 or 5 cryptocurrency ads. I think people.
Well, everybody thought that the Ewan McGregor one was going to be.
I thought it was going to be a crypto commercial, and I was like, it's not. It was for Travelocity, I think, but it seemed like a crypto, and it's not Obi-Wan Kenobi either. So it was a pretty interesting. It's always fun watching for the commercials. It's the one time a year where I shut off my cynicism against advertising and kind of just embrace the silliness of it all. And I mean, we are trailer boys, and we do like movie trailers.
We're not Boz boys, though, are we?
Yeah, we joked about this. We are missing out on the Elvis trailer, which will drop later this week, which we'll cover on another episode or something like that. We're the Boz boys, so number one Boz Lerman fan boys. But we'll be talking about a ton of stuff today. We're going to talk about the trailers for Men, Lightyear, Firestarter, Jurassic World Dominion, the Adam Project. I didn't watch the Father Stew trailer.
Oh, I sure did.
Did you? I'll get your thoughts.
Deep Water.
Deep Water, Sonic the Hedgehog 2. There was a DC Sizzle Reel, Jordan Peele's Nope, and then obviously the big one being
Larry David Crypto's currency ad.
I love Larry David, but I tweeted out, I'm like, don't you have enough money, dude? I'm like,
No.
You didn't need to do a crypto ad. Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, and then we also got a Moon Knight trailer on the TV side, as well as a Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power.
Before the Fellowship, before the King, Matt.
Before the Ring. How many times are they going to say ring? So let's start with Lord of the Rings, because I got a beef with that franchise. One, it always annoys me when a TV show or movie has the same word in its subtitle as its title. Right. So it's The Lord of the Rings, the Rings
power.
Is it the Power of the Ring or the Rings of Power? But they use rings twice, and it annoys the shit out of me.
I hate it, Matt. You got to brand it.
I hate it. You use ring too many times, both in the trailer and the name. Still have only watched Fellowship and the first Hobbit, and then we saw Desolation of Smaug together, and I fell asleep. I slept through the whole second half of it. I didn't even see the Smaug dragon.
Which is arguably the best half of that movie.
Didn't even hear Doctor Strange at all. I think maybe a little bit at the beginning, but did this Lord of the Rings trailer do anything for you?
No. I actually really do like the Peter Jackson Lord of
Yeah,
the
I'm
Rings
kind of joking.
trilogy.
Again, look at my Twitter. It said, "Don't take me seriously." I'm gonna watch them this year. It's programmed in the Roarbeck International Film Festival.
Yeah, I really like those movies quite a bit. I'm not as keen on the Hobbit films, but I kind of feel like Peter Jackson did everything he could have with the J.R.R. Tolkien adaptations in
Yeah.
terms of, like, what you could do with the story. And this is obviously going to take place before the Lord of the Rings kind of canon, and sort of, I guess it's like the grouping of the families each
So it's
getting
before
their
the Hobbit
rings.
too, as well, right?
Yeah. And or maybe it's like in around the same time as the
Yeah.
Hobbit. I'm not sure. The only thing of interest that other than Amazon has spent millions and millions of dollars on this thing and putting it together, the only kind of like interest I have in it is that Morfydd Clark from Saint Maud is playing
Mm-hmm.
Gladriel, who in the Peter Jackson series of films was played by Kate Blanchett, and sort of like that's kind of the only sort of like, oh, I'm happy for her, getting a great, hopefully a great paycheck, and a continuing series. But yeah, I just don't see that, especially post Game of Thrones, where you kind of feel burnt out a little bit by where that all went with the last, like with those 8 seasons or so, and
We're
then
also getting
them,
a spin-off show from
yeah,
them
House
too.
of Dragons or whatever it is, and on HBO or HBO Max. So yeah, I almost kind of feel a little burnt out with all like the medieval kind of stuff right now, or the medieval fantasy kind of stuff going on.
Yeah, which was
Having
never my jam anyway.
Having
So
said that, though, I mean, I sound like a hypocrite because I mean, I think one of our favorite films last year was David Lowery's The Green Knight.
sure, there's a way
So
to do it, you
yeah,
know. So I think again, I'll give anything a shot. Will I watch this Lord of the Rings series? Maybe I'll try. Maybe I'll watch the movies by then. But I don't know. It did nothing for me, which isn't surprising. Eric, today I will be drinking a Mountain Dew Baja Blast.
ooh,
As we do this in pure football. I really was craving Taco Bell, and the one thing about where we live right now. Love it. Wonderful area. Not a Taco Bell very close. I'm so used to always having a Taco Bell within like arm's reach, whether it's through Uber Eats or can drive there quickly or something like that. So I really was I haven't had Taco Bell in months. And so I went over to
you
the
say
gas
that like it's a
station.
bad thing.
Um it is a bad thing.
Your
And then
stomach is thanking
yeah,
you.
sure. And then also Mountain Dew dropped a new flavor called Mountain Dew Spark, which is a raspberry lemonade Mountain Dew. And Eric, I've been going to the gas station like once every 2 days to see if they have this Mountain Dew Spark. So I went yesterday because I wanted to get some snacks for the Super Bowl. I'm like, they better have this Mountain Dew Spark. They have an advertisement for Mountain Dew Spark on their thing. I'm like, oh great, they're gonna have it. Didn't, but they did have Baja Blast. So we're gonna be enjoying this as we talk about some movie
Now let
trailers.
me ask you a
That's my
question.
thoughts on Lord of the Rings.
Let me
So
ask you a question related to this.
yeah.
For our review of the Batman, are you going to be drinking the Riddler's Brew?
I might message Warner Brothers and be like, "Can you please?" I don't think it'll be. This is the one I love. Canada. I love living here. Healthcare is a good thing, but but they don't have wild Mountain Dew flavors that often. We get like you get the Code Red, you get your Voltage or whatever, and you get these surprise flavors. They have the Baja Blast because it is a Taco Bell original. It says it right on the bottle.
As Matt
Um,
shows it on the video version of our
um,
show.
it's a Taco Bell original, which they do at other places. They have like different exclusive flavors of Mountain Dew at different fast food places in the US. Riddler's Brew, I hope it comes here, but I have no idea. I mean, we did get the Batman calzone pizza from Little Caesars, which I haven't talked about. I forgot. We're
Well,
way
now's
off
the
track
time to
already.
do it.
We're way off track already. But I hope we get some Riddler's Brew and that I can bring it to that opening night screening.
If you've ever wanted to
Um,
taste Paul Dano, now's the chance.
Oh my god. All right, let's get into some of the movie trailers, and Marvel will lump into one thing. I think we should kick it off with Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. Um so Eric, we got what is our second full trailer, or the first one I guess was a teaser. This is our first full trailer for Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness.
Yeah.
And it's somewhat, I mean, if you are an MCU fan, or a Sam Raimi fan, it kind of broke the internet last night a little bit, especially with a certain voice we hear in that trailer. So I'll kick it off. Again, Doctor Strange never been my guy. He's been like, I've always enjoyed him, but like the first movie, I've seen multiple times now, and it kind of ranks in my middle to lower MCU, just cuz like I never really um got attached to that movie. Some of the visuals are cool, but like him as a character, I was like, he's fine. And I know we've talked about this even in the What If episode, which is why we never really connected with that episode of the show either, because I just felt like you might feel the same, where Doctor Strange, like, is a decent MCU movie, but was never my favorite. And I've liked him every time he's popped up, in the Avengers movies, and even in Spider-Man, I liked his addition there. But I wouldn't have said, like, if you're like, oh, are you excited for a Doctor Strange sequel, I would have been like, yeah, as excited as I am for any kind of like MCU entry that's not like one of my top characters. um
Like
but
Hercule
You
Poirot.
yeah, that mustache. Oh man, what an intro. So I'm just amazed at, like, I mean, everything that they've been building up, and with the multiverse, and with Loki, and What If, and Spider-Man, and all that stuff. Like, it's wild that is right after No Way Home, because it feels like No Way Home was such a massive event that I this also feels that way with what they're doing. And the visuals, I think, are wild. I have no idea where they're going to go, but having that tease of Patrick Stewart as Professor X, and then
The voice
teasing,
specifically, yeah.
yeah, and what looks to be the back of his like head and his body, and which is seems to be teasing the Illuminati, which is a group in Marvel Comics that kind of are kind of a secret group of all the smartest minds, and from each section of the heroes on Earth. So usually you have a representative from the X-Men, a representative from the Avengers, you have Black Panther or Namor, like Reed Richards, and like you have all these like people who are representing a faction or something like that come together to kind of secretly protect mostly Earth, but in this, what seems to be the multiverse. So you get those Ultron robots that are leading, Doctor Strange into this kind of almost a courtroom kind of thing, like and which seems to be them teasing the Illuminati. And then you have what looks like the What If zombie versions of Strange and Wanda, and all the stuff with Wanda. And they're throwing so much at you in this trailer. It was like one of those things where I was like, what? Yeah, like while I was watching it when it first premiered during the game last night. I was just like, it was so much to take in. And then you have, even it from a filmmaking perspective, seeing some of those Sam Raimi isms throughout the thing, with the spinning camera and the snap zooms. And like, he seems to be injecting some personality in the movie too. So like, I'm as high as I possibly could be on this movie right now. And I think they are going all in on this multiverse stuff that seems to be leading into Secret Wars. And it's just like, I have no idea if they're showing Patrick Stewart, or not showing, teasing him by using his voice, which is so clearly his voice. Um, I can only imagine what else they have, because then that to them is just like, it's just a throwaway. Like everyone, like we can just give that one away in the trailer. And what else do they have? So I don't want to get my hopes up too high, because that's always a recipe for disaster. But it's looking like an enjoyable, kind of really wild time at the movies, especially if you're like a hardcore MCU person. Like, and just don't know how they keep trying to top themselves, because if this is going to be this big thing. Anyways, what did you think?
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited for it. I think maybe purely on just a level of getting a new Sam Raimi movie, because it's been a while since Oz the Great and Powerful, which was his last film that he directed, which was also a Disney movie,
Kind of put him in director's jail.
even though it made a ton of money.
And it wasn't bad. It was just
No, it was
fine.
just kind of a middle of the road, kind of almost like Disneyfied version of Army of Darkness in a lot of ways, which again, not awful. I just think maybe Mila Kunis was miscast in her role and what have you. But yeah, I think for that alone, to see the guy who did the Evil Dead movies and obviously kind of usher in a new era of the comic book films, which we talked a lot about on our Spider-Man review. Even the poster, referencing What If with the Captain Carter shield and sort of the fragments of glass. So I do think with them leading in with the voiceover by Patrick Stewart, they are really trying to sell this maybe a little bit more than they would have to with the Spider-Man No Way Home, just in
Right.
terms
Because you
of
think the character of Spider-Man can kind of almost sell itself.
exactly, yeah, like people are going to see that because the Spider-Man is such a beloved character, and you don't really need to kind of like hint at. I mean, it was Alfred Molina was the guy who kind of let the cat out of the bag with all that stuff. Where in terms of like, the having him in the teaser and kind of telling you that the multiverse was going to be a part of that narrative. Where with Doctor Strange, I do feel like you need to really kind of get across that this is going to be something, for X-Men fans, for fans of the MCU as a whole, and not just simply another Doctor Strange installment. So them having that gives that little bit of intrigue and hints at that. And also it kind of makes you think like, oh, we would have originally gotten this in March instead of May, which is now its new release date, the beginning of May. And instead at the end of March you have Moon Knight coming out, which they released a new trailer or TV spot for that. So, and I actually really liked this TV spot for Moon Knight more than the original teaser trailer we got.
Reuses a lot of the same footage in the Kid Cudi song, but adds a little bit more from Ethan Hawke, a little bit more of the costume, a little bit more of his like weapon that he uses, and a quick, brief 30-second look at Moon Knight. But I agree with you. It looked I was more intrigued after this than the first one. But going back to Doctor Strange, yeah, you mentioned the poster, and there's that tease at Captain Carter on the poster. You see her shield. There's a moment where we haven't talked about America Chavez and that whole character being introduced in this movie, and where they're punching. One of her powers is she punches
Falcon Punch.
Jeez, that was very loud in my ears.
Sorry.
Yes, that was great. It just caught me off guard. Where she punches like holes in that they can travel through dimensions to, and there's a moment in the trailer. Um, if you go frame by frame, where they're going into an animated universe, like the whole thing in the star is animated. So whether they go into the What If or something in What If, or maybe that's how Captain Carter comes out. Maybe Captain Carter is part of the Illuminati. But I'm really intrigued. And then there's that moment where people think that could either be Monica Rambeau as Captain Marvel, like a variant Captain Marvel, or some people are saying Superior Iron Man because of the Ultron sentient, Ultron robots. That Superior Iron Man being this, this superior, like ultimate Iron Man from the comics that they think could be part of the Illuminati. That's rumored. People are throwing out Tom Cruise might be in the movie as that version of Iron Man. Other people on the Illuminati, you think someone's as Reed Richards. And Eric, we talked about this a little bit of like it could be the Ian Griffin. What's his name? Ian Griffin?
Gurford, yeah.
Gurford. From that's how much but like him from the Fantastic Four movies from the 2000s, and like there's so many rumors being thrown out there that it's hard to tell, which is kind of exciting because when that starts to just snowball, then you're like, well, what's real and what's not? Someone took a screenshot of the poster, another one of those broken frames that looks like Deadpool doing that's from another Deadpool image too. So like, which seems, and there was Rob Liefeld who was on a podcast the other day, and people are like, what about those leaks from Multiverse? And he's like, they're everything looks pretty true to me. And then so that's kind of intriguing and like, but then I get to worry of being like, if you throw too much into this movie, but then I mean, they've shown time and time again that they, with Endgame, with No Way Home, like they can balance too much for the most part. Where other, like, I'd be so scared with other studios or people like putting this much shit in a movie, and even how much we see Shuma Gorath or the tentacle monster thing that is different from the one in What If, right? Like this is a
Yeah.
specific Doctor
It
Strange
it
villain.
looks like an H.P. Lovecraft
Yeah.
Cthulhu-esque creature.
So there's that. You're seeing, I already mentioned the zombie versions. Then you have Wanda that looks like she's going to be kind of a villain. There's that tease at Nightmare because he's having nightmares. And like it's just,
Will
I have
Mephisto
no,
be rumored?
yeah, I have
Probably.
no idea what this movie is going to be. But the Illuminati stuff and the potential at the people who could show up and it being a continuation of that celebration of comic book movies, because now Marvel can go, yeah, everything is technically canon. Every Marvel movie you have ever
Well, everything that
watched.
they have rights to.
Yes, but even the ones that they don't, they've made deals for the most part. Like, I don't know
Right.
if there's many characters that they don't at least have some sort of connection, that they like. The whole Sony movies are now canon, right? And then like now you own all the Fox stuff, so you can say that stuff's all canon. And like, if you bring that all into the multiverse, and then if you start creating other, universes that we never technically saw, whether it's a Tom Cruise universe that he just shows up in this movie. And I'm not saying that's going to happen. Maybe it's someone else playing it. I could
Or
even see
maybe it's
Robert
just
Downey
Robert
Jr.
yeah.
Yeah, like I could see that. Like I don't think they do that this early, but like that would be wild and would be
But if it
really
is a different
cool.
version of him,
Yeah.
then why not? Because it's not necessarily the Iron Man that people
Mhm.
love. Like, they could still save that for down the line where this is
Yeah.
a different version of that character.
But
Or they could
you
do like what you mentioned with, like, the original rumored casting when New Line had the rights to Iron Man and wanted to
mhm.
do have both Justin Timberlake
Well, they
and
thought there was
Tom
going to be
Cruise.
there could be some meta stuff, right? Because there's the Krasinski rumors of him maybe as Reed Richards, but someone's like, oh, he could also be playing Captain America, because remember he just lost out that role to Chris Evans. And I just it I don't know. Like I would love if RDJ showed up, but then I think you could lend yourself to some stunt casting, and especially with some of those winks to the audience with the meta stuff, and you could kill those people off in this movie, right? I don't know if that would make people mad, but then like in your mind, you're like, okay, they had their own universes and stuff like that. It's a nice wink to the audience that, yeah, Tom Cruise almost played Iron Man. Now he is finally playing him in a movie. And or Krasinski, everyone wants him as Reed Richards. Let's just blow him the fuck up from the Illuminati, or Patrick Stewart even. Like, and I don't think that that's how they're going to introduce mutants or anything. Like, I don't think this means like, yeah, let's bring in, Hugh Jackman, even though he could be in this movie. Who knows? Let's bring in all the X-Men characters we know from the same actors, whether it's from the Matthew Vaughn universe or the original one. And I don't think that's what they're going to do. Like even with Patrick Stewart being in this movie, like I just think he's going to be the version of the character from those universes. And I think everyone from the Illuminati isn't supposed to be like, hey, we might jump over to any of these universes. I just think they're going to be nods to other Marvel universes that we've already watched and that are over with, right? Or that continued on, but we haven't really watched them because they either failed or we moved on or whatever. So I could see Wanda being the reason mutants at the end of this movie or something like that. And that's how they
Well, isn't
introduce it.
there isn't there a storyline in the comic books where Wanda is the reason for basically destroying all the mutants?
So they
So
think
you
it
could
might
do
be a
like a reverse
reverse.
engineering of that?
Yeah. So people think there's a moment in the House of M comic where she goes, no more mutants, and kind of like gets rid of them. So the rumor is that in this movie, she will have the opposite of that, where she creates mutants, at least in this version of the MCU, because we know in these other universes now that, like, will Ralph Boner end up being actual Quicksilver? We'll see. But
And also, will
man,
Toby Maguire show up? I mean,
yeah,
being a
that's
Sam
another.
Raimi movie,
And a multiverse movie. Like it
yeah.
would be dope if he's on the Illuminati. Like that would be incredible, right? Bruce Campbell's rumored to be in the movie, and saying that he might be a member of the Illuminati. I think it would be very funny if he was a variant of Doctor Strange. And he, because
Or
Raimi,
Mysterio,
or
because
yeah,
Mysterio was the character everybody
yes,
thought he was going to
yeah,
play.
a variant of Mysterio on the Illuminati would be very funny
Yeah.
too. Um,
Or all the versions or all the characters he played throughout Raimi's movies.
Yeah. So I don't know. There's so many theorizing, and you could talk, and no, none of us really know. And you can dig into some leaks and see some leaked photos, but like even the leaked photos I saw confirmed a lot of the stuff they showed in this trailer. That still got me very excited. Like I saw that leaked photo of Professor X and Doctor Strange being handcuffed in front of him, and I'm like, is this real? Like, it looks pretty real. And then in this, I'm like, no, those are the exact robots that were beside him, and that's his voice. So they know when these things come out. So they're like, okay, this is already floating around. So why don't we do this so people maybe stop digging in other areas? And they talk about this for a while, right? So
Misdirection, right?
yeah, exactly. They're like, okay, this is one of the reveals, but maybe there's more to it. So it looks hella entertaining, and then we only scratch the surface. Like a lot of the visuals, I think Rammy's direction, even in this trailer, looks a lot of fun. You see a lot of those horror elements, and I feel like they'll be really fun. Like even in that first trailer, when we got that crow, that like physical prop of that crow that kind of turns and it snaps onto him is very Raimi. And I hope we get more kind of weird stuff like that too. So I'm pumped. May 6th. Like you said, it was supposed to be next month, but they punted it a little bit, and then now Moon Knight took that March spot. And we didn't talk much about Moon Knight, but yeah, I agree with you that I like the vibe of that trailer more. But um, I'm just excited for another MCU series.
And both seem to be thematically kind of interestingly connected in the idea of like the fragmenting of personalities and
Mm-hmm.
having multiple personalities from the point of view of being within one person or the idea of them being scattered throughout multiple worlds.
Yeah, totally. Um, okay. That was fun. Where do we want to go next? Let's go to Jurassic Park or Jurassic World, my bad. Force of Habit. Jurassic World Dominion. So this is a trailer that dropped slightly before the big game, but was a big game spot as well. It is now our God, is it the sixth entry? Yeah, sixth,
Yeah.
right? 3 and 3. So
Yep.
we've had just as many world movies as we had park movies now. So
Poirot would
um,
approve because they're
yeah,
even numbered.
there you go. And 6. Um, so we got this new Jurassic World Dominion trailer, which is the what they're saying an end of an era, the final culmination of this franchise or this current iteration of this franchise, and then you're bringing in the casts from both Park and World together, even though you've had scattered cameos and different things throughout the
BD Wong
franchise,
throughout
like
the new
yeah,
franchise.
as being kind of the connective tissue throughout all of it. Um, and it's in the fallout of, if you haven't watched Fallen Kingdom yet, I mean, you probably wouldn't watch this trailer, or you just don't care. Probably shouldn't care because it's not good at all.
Nope.
You saw at the end of that movie, the little clone girl release all
They're just like
the
me.
God, it's awful. I'm excited to rewatch them all leading up to this, but she releases all the dinosaurs, and it's just one of the dumbest decisions of all time. And like Chris Pratt and Bryce Dallas Howard are like, yeah, okay, that sounds good. Like, no. So then, anyways, we're seeing the fallout of this, and the premise was always so intriguing because I'm rewatching Matt Reeves and Rupert Wyatt's Planet of the Apes movies, and that premise always gave me like Planet of the Apes vibes. Yeah, maybe the dinosaurs don't talk or can't, it's very
Or the
different, but like,
Flintstones.
yeah, yes, exactly. But that premise of dinosaurs live among us now, and we have to deal with that. Like that premise was really, really cool. And I think you're seeing some of that in this. Like, I think it looks really silly. I think it's giving me, you can tell Universal is like, hey, what worked? Fast and Furious. That's our huge franchise. let's make Jurassic Park the Fast and the Furious. And let's bring cast together. Let's bring back everyone. Let's have ridiculous set pieces. Let's have set pieces with dinosaurs in areas they should never be. Where's the coolest place you can put a dinosaur? Let's put them there.
Laser tag.
Yeah. and then bring back the OG cast, and you have those very classic legacy sequel moments with the same style of music you get in a lot of these, and the reverence you have towards the old cast. So I use a lot of hand movements when we talk. I'm going to try not to do that as much.
Why not? It's fine that you're articulate and yeah.
Anyways, as a huge Jurassic Park fan, I've always talked about that the first movie. I have a Jurassic Park shirt on under this hoodie, but we haven't. Arguably, there hasn't been a great follow up to that original movie. That original movie is so great. Everything after it, it's almost a perfect action adventure movie.
It's a perfect blockbuster, Matt. How dare you say otherwise?
It is. No, it is. And I totally agree with that. It's a perfect blockbuster. And I know we're both kind of Lost World apologists. Like, I think there is nuggets of a good movie in that movie, and there are some great moments. There are some really bad moments as well. And I feel like that movie should have been split up into two, and the third movie should have been the end of two. And
when they go to San Diego,
that should have been the third movie.
And if it were made today, that's what would have happened.
Yeah, and that's kind of what we're getting now, right? And then the third movie, when you bring back Sam Neill and
Alan.
Yeah, that moment is the best. Alan, like on the airplane, is great. And then you get into World, and I was super high on it when it came out because it's like they're bringing back Jurassic Park. It's at a theme park again.
Your new favorite characters played by Chris Pratt and Bryce Dallas
At that
Howard.
time, we loved Chris Pratt.
Yeah. Still like him in supporting roles, right? Like, I mean, Guardians obviously is an ensemble, Moneyball, Zero Dark 30, her. But yeah, there was that point where like Jeremy Renner as well, where like after, the one success, Hollywood had to put him in that person in everything. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, and then Fallen Kingdom, just an absolute disaster. Just a disaster.
Colin Trevorrow, who directed Book of Henry and Jurassic World, first one, J.A. Bayona directed Fallen Kingdom, is coming back. So Trevorrow is doing 1 and 3 because he kind of had a falling out with directing a Star Wars movie. So he's returning to where it all began.
I mean, good. I think he's probably the right choice. Like, World isn't bad enough to be like, oh no, but then Book of Henry is bad enough. But then you're just like, well, I hope he learns from that, and I think he's probably the right person. I'm totally fine with that. I think it looks fun. I think it looks ridiculous. I think, like, why don't you just embrace that? Yeah, make it a Fast and Furious movie if it can have really wild moments and have fun character beats with that original cast, and just go all out. And I don't know, I just need it to be fun, and like that's all. My expectations are kind of so low because of the history that it's just, as long as it's fun, and just seeing that cast back together with Sam Neill and Laura Dern and Jeff Goldblum, like all together, even if it's like really obvious with some of the things they do with, like,
you forgot a cast member though, Matt. The Dilophosaur.
Yeah. There's some cool moments in that trailer, but a lot of them are callbacks to the original, and you hope there's a little bit more than that. But then just the cheap pop of going, ooh, I remember that scene or that dinosaur, or even the way that Laura Dern's shirt is tied or the way she takes off her glasses, it's all like exactly the same from that first movie. So those are cheap things, but I hope there's a little bit more to it. But like, I got excited watching this trailer. I was like, I am excited for this movie. Cautiously optimistic to be like at least fun. Do I think it's going to be good? I don't, but do I hope it is? Yes, which obviously, but I don't know. There's a potential that it could be like the Fast Five of the Jurassic franchise, which I hope.
Ooh, that's high praise.
Well, that's what I mean by that Fast and Furious.
I think it'll be Fast and Furious 6.
Sure, I'll take it. I'll take it. I'll take it.
Tarmac.
I'll take it. I'll take it.
The one scene I do like, and I'm sure they will milk it because it is filmmaker sort of, catnip, is the drive-in sequence.
Did you watch that sequence?
I did, yeah, and I
Yeah.
really liked it in sort of, but I would like to see that on the big screen.
Yes, because
You
I did
know,
watch that. It was the prologue thing that they shared a
yeah,
few, and I hope it's a bit extended in the movie. I agree with you.
yeah, and other than that, I would just say, like, I mean, expectations are so low that I think the what to kind of, your expectations should just be, is this going to be fun? And ultimately, like, Jurassic World is fine for what it is. It's a completely, pandering, nostalgic sort of, back into what you remember. And then Fallen Kingdom, even though it takes more risks, it whiffs completely because it's trying to add into this genre, or add subgenres into the genre that it's playing in, and it doesn't really understand how to connect, those two DNA chains that it's kind of putting together. So yeah, I mean, like, ultimately, like, this is also going to be fan service 101, but I don't know.
Fan service can be okay. It's just
Yeah, I agree. I just hope that they focus it more on, the original cast, and not on Pratt and Bryce Dallas Howard's character. Even though I will say, I mean, I like Bryce Dallas Howard quite a bit, and we talked very much about how great, an episode of the Book of Boba Fett,
she should have directed this.
yeah, exactly. I like, if she had directed this, it would have been exciting.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's ultimately where I'm at with that. I'm not like, oh, it's the most anticipated film of this
I'm
summer.
quite
I don't
excited,
think
but
it's going to. I mean, like, I'm excited for, just in the sense of, like, I think if I was a kid, I'd be more excited.
yeah,
But
I agree.
yeah, but because of, like, what we know and what we're
The
going
history of
into,
it, yeah.
yeah, tempered.
I agree. I
Yeah,
totally agree. Where do you want to go from here? Do you want to go to Jordan
let's
Peele?
go to Nope,
Yeah,
Matt.
Nope. So we got our first full trailer for Jordan Peele's Nope, his follow-up to Get Out and Us. Um, this looks awesome. I am 1,000% in. I love alien movies and alien invasion movies, and I mean, very clearly what this movie is about.
It might
People on
not be,
Twitter.
though. It might just be the
It might not
cloud
be.
from,
Yeah.
the iCloud.
Yeah, exactly. People have been saying that Nope could stand for not of planet Earth, which I think is really, really cool. Um, just stylistically, like Jordan Peele is developing such like an interesting, awesome style that I just can't get enough of. And this it looks like it's weird. His use of music is incredible. Isn't it Hoyt van Hoytema who's
Hoytema,
doing the
yeah.
who's doing the cinematography? I know it's shot partially in IMAX, which they already were teasing, and he's calling it like a horror epic. And I even going back to like M. Night Shyamalan with Signs, which
Which
is I
he's been
feel like
compared to, right?
yeah, it's just that's just giving me a ton of those vibes of that horror epic that feels both like it's terrifying and scary, but has that kind of Spielbergian kind of adventure epic kind of stuff to it too, which like maybe I'm not getting that much from this on that end, but I still do get those vibes. um and it's just super intriguing of what the hell these things are and like what they're doing, and there's going to be some sort of social commentary there, and which I think could be really really cool. And he's involving like obviously movie making and things like that. Like it's just got everything going for it. I think it looks awesome.
Yeah, and reuniting with Daniel Kaluuya again, who I think actually, like, obviously Jordan Peele also known for comedy. There's a moment in the trailer where we're kind of first introduced to him, where they're doing this ad for this ranch, and he's like, great, under his breath. That is very well delivered in that kind of
Yeah.
comedic sort of tone. So yeah, I think that it's going to be one of those movies that will pique a lot of people's interest, and if it kind of lands, where it intends to, I think it'll be kind of, this great horror roller coaster ride of a movie where you sit down, you're kind of taken aback by what you're watching, but you're also completely glued by the entertainment of it. And the intrigue is definitely there. But like an M. Night Shyamalan movie, and especially when M. Night was in kind of that stage where everybody was always still kind of like giving him either the benefit of the doubt or, like his first few movies. So you have that, the Sixth Sense kind of then leading into Unbreakable, then leading into Signs, which was kind of like his big kind of three, before The Village and Lady in the Water. There also are again, talking about expectations, it's what we're projecting on the film that might be something that, if you're thinking you're getting one thing and the movie gives you another, I could see people being disappointed by that. And that's not necessarily the movie's fault. That's more so like, again, you going in and thinking, okay, well, if I'm seeing an M. Night Shyamalan movie, it's got to have a twist. And, like with Jordan Peele, it's like, well, I'm going into a Jordan Peele movie, so it's got to be a horror movie with social commentary.
Yeah.
And it's also got to have, some weird plot, reveal as well. And so if he doesn't play by those rules and does something that subverts those expectations, which I'm sure he's conscientious of, that might upset people. But overall, I think that it is one of the most exciting films for the summer and of the year. And also even having, a supporting cast that includes Michael Wincott, who is a Scarborough native and is probably best known, in the 90s and being the captain in Alien Resurrection and the villain in The Crow and things like that. So also another exciting cast member as well.
And you also mentioned, which some other people pointed out, that it reminded you of is it the Julianne Moore movie?
Yes, The Forgotten from like the early 2000s.
Because it has that same effect with the person getting ripped up into the sky, right?
Yeah, and it's kind of like this conspiracy thriller with aliens, but it's been so long since I remember seeing that in the theater.
I think I've
and
seen it too,
laughing
but
at it. It was so bad. But I also get that movie and that Sandra Bullock film mixed up from time to time, Premonition, where like they're both like these, I think they're both Sony as well, and they're both kind of like almost weirdly playing with supernatural elements, and you're kind of not sure if they're supernatural or in the mindset of the character.
Yeah, totally. Some of the weird shots in the trailer that I dug the crab, which looks like the Get Out living room that he's
Yeah.
crawling out
Is he
on.
hinting that it's going to be crab people?
Which would be incredible. There's the alien trying to fist bump the kid under the bed. There's an alien walking by one of the stables. You just see the top of its head. And obviously the cool shot of that cloud or that spaceship with the kite kind of string falling down or whatever that is. Looks dope. Yeah, and I'm excited to rewatch Us because I wasn't really hot on Us when we first saw it. And to your point with playing with expectations and that playing a part into how you feel about a movie, I'm excited to rewatch that movie knowing what it is and without expectations now, because I haven't rewatched it since we went to that screening.
No, you did. I mean, even though you didn't love the movie, I liked it, didn't love it. But I do think we both agree that Lupita Nyong'o was amazing.
She's
in
great.
Us.
And I didn't hate it either. I was
Yeah.
just kind of medium on it. I think I was mixed negative on it, but I am excited maybe to go back and revisit and go, oh shit, this is better than I thought, but we'll see.
So you definitely have 5 on Nope.
Yeah. Where do you want to go next, Eric? I'll let you choose.
Let's go to Alex Garland's Men.
How'd you feel about this one?
I'm excited for it. I mean, like it plays in the tropes that Garland has kind of set up in his directorial efforts to date with both Ex Machina and Annihilation, where it's an isolated location and the main character, a female protagonist, is kind of sort of at the center of it. This time around, even though there are horror elements in both Ex Machina and in Annihilation, this does seem to be less sort of sci-fi sort of adjacent and more horror sort of adjacent, with how it's playing with sort of tropes of being on your own and kind of confronting something that, again, is either maybe supernatural or insidious within the mind. And having Jessie Buckley, or Academy Award nominee Jessie Buckley, in the lead, has me very much intrigued. And having a May release date for a kind of quote unquote elevated horror movie from A24 is all the more to be excited, because it's kind of a nice counter programming when the summer movie season starts and you're starting to kind of get the blockbuster movies, and it's just something that maybe is like this little small intimate weird kind of movie. And if it's anything like what Garland has done with those two films or his miniseries Devs, he's one of the most kind of one of the most consistent filmmakers working today, and I've liked all of his stuff. So even Dread, which a lot of people rumor, or like the Toby Hooper Poltergeist thing, where like
Think he
he
directed that,
directed
right?
it, yeah, or Ghost
Yeah.
directed it. So
Yeah. Yeah, I reiterate everything that you're saying. I Devs has been sitting in my kind of watch list for a very, very long time. It is now on Disney Plus Star here in Canada, in 4K, with HDR. So like, which I think it'll be a great show to watch that way. So I've just been waiting to pull the trigger on that. And I love Garland. So like I'm all in on this. Like again, just a short little tease, didn't get much from the story, but I'm sure it'll be heady. I'm sure it'll be visually stunning, and Jesse Buckley just continues to crush it. So I'm all in on it. I'm definitely intrigued. Let's go over to where do we want to go? Let's go to Lightyear, because again, we don't have to spend too much time on some of these. So we got another trailer for Lightyear, and they announced some of the supporting cast as well. You have people like Taika Waititi in there. I forget who else
well,
got
Kiki Palmer, who's
Kiki
also the
Palmer.
lead in
Yeah,
Nope, is a
yeah,
voice in Lightyear.
that's who I was thinking of. Thank you, Eric. So Kiki Palmer's also in Lightyear. Um, a lot of the same footage. You still get the Starman song. You get, it's a little bit more plot driven. You get the supporting, funny, cute animal robot character that they
The robot
introduce.
cat.
Yeah, robot cat. And you also get kind of your first look at what looks to be Zurg and like what's going on in the movie. I'm still fully like intrigued with this. Like, I don't know if I'm like, I was talking to Nevis and she felt the same way, where we're both like, I don't know if I'm like, I need to see this, or I absolutely can't wait for this thing. But I think it is still a really kind of interesting premise of taking the Toy Story franchise and doing a spinoff about the man, not the toy. And I think it could just be a fun sci-fi. And again, I think the best way to go into a Pixar movie is me going, yeah, that looks good. And then they show me something that I was totally unexpecting and blow me away. But I think it's visually stunning, and I'm definitely intrigued by this too.
Yeah, I don't know if I have the same enthusiasm with this that I do with Turning Red,
I
where
agree.
like I'm really excited for that, and that truly feels like a Pixar movie. Where watching the Lightyear trailers, both the teaser and this new one, if it didn't have the Pixar, logo, and it wasn't Buzz Lightyear, I would say that it was just kind of like a generic Disney animated movie. Like there's not a lot there. Like even in the designs and details of, the ships and the characters, it doesn't really scream, like we spent 10 years kind of working on this thing. Like they always kind of have that sort of narrative when they're talking about all their original creations. Like we spent 10 and a half years working on developing this Wally character from a napkin drawing that we kind of came up during lunch, and from there expanded on it. This kind of feels almost like they kind of just went with that in the last maybe 5 or 6 years, because again, animation does take much
Of
longer to
course, yeah.
do. But it just doesn't feel or look like a Pixar movie. Like it almost does feel like Pixar is kind of really reacting to the world around the studio, and meaning that like it's sort of taking the temperature of what blockbuster filmmaking
Yeah.
is right now, and sort
Marvel,
of
Star Wars, that kind of stuff, and
and is
try to do
competing
that.
with that, right? Or trying to kind of align with what Disney is releasing. Where the thing that I've always loved about Pixar is that they've done their own thing, and they've kind of made stuff that kind of works both as a homage to classic storytelling, not just Disney, but like even just classic animation style, and also doing stuff that isn't necessarily trendy,
Yeah.
and I think that that's why Pixar has been so successful for so long. But yeah, this does feel like it is very much sort of wanting to kind of capture a zeitgeist of blockbuster filmmaking right now.
Could you say that again?
as
Sorry, I'm having trouble hearing you.
Siri.
as Siri here. No, it's good. But yeah,
Um,
so
I don't disagree with you.
yeah.
I definitely think that that's maybe a good spot to be in for that movie, because I feel like then maybe, like I just said, maybe our expectations are low, and then we go, holy shit! Of course, I should have known that Pixar would have delivered like a great, sci-fi adventure movie or something like that, right? So, yeah, I'm not like going, oh shit, I need to see this right now, but I'm like, okay, it's a cool idea. Um, I want to see what they do with it.
Now,
So,
will it be theatrical only, or will it end up like Turning Red being day and date and also available on Disney
I
Plus
mean,
without a premium window?
I think it will be there, which funnily enough will be the Buzz Lightyear spin-off movie, action movie that is the one that they put in theaters, right? But I do have a feeling that Toy Story is their biggest franchise. They're like, I think Toy Story 3 and 4 made like over $1 billion, didn't they? Um, I don't know if I'm
Well, the whole
right, but like
series
the
has to have
series,
had.
well,
Yeah.
of course, but like it's their biggest franchise. A lot of those things that you were talking about of being like what looks to be their first blockbuster action movie kind of thing. Like I do have a feeling that Lightyear will be their return to cinemas, and I think you'll get a whole other set of think pieces on, of course Lightyear is the one that they put in theaters, but Turning Red and other ones they didn't have as much faith in, or are weirder or smaller or whatever. But yeah, I do
Or
think it.
made by people of color. Like that's the
Yeah,
other thing,
that's
where
the other
like
thing.
Turning
Yeah.
Red and Soul are films about, the African American experience and, the Asian experience. And it's like these movies should be seen on a big screen. I would have loved to have seen Soul on a big screen.
Yeah, I
And
still hope I get that opportunity sometime.
it
Like
feels
I
like it feels like they're relegating these wonderful movies where it's like it's starting to be more inclusive and diverse with kind of its storytelling, but at the same time it's like, oh well, we'll put these movies on Disney Plus, and we're not even going to give them like, you have to pay $20 extra or anything
yeah.
like that. They're just for free.
I was hoping that like Turning Red would have a Canadian premiere at Lightbox or something, which I'm still holding out hope for. But that could be really cool. But other than that, yeah, I totally agree with you. And I do unfortunately think that it's very telling of the state of the theatrical experience if Lightyear is even the one that is the one that goes theatrical, because those are the types of movies that are going to go to theaters, are the big blockbuster must see in a theater movies. Even though me and you want to watch Soul or Turning Red in a theater, it's just
Or
like,
even Luca. Like, even though
yeah.
we didn't like Luca that much, I mean, it still is always, a wonderful experience to watch a Pixar movie in the
Oh,
theater.
totally, absolutely. um we got a DC sizzle reel. There's not much to say. You got
Courtesy
a
of Dwayne.
Yeah, you got a little bit more footage of Black Adam, some footage from the Flash, um, quick bit of Robert Pattinson in the Batman. So just basically a sizzle reel of all of their movies that are Aquaman. We got a quick glimpse of. So everything that they have coming out this year. A lot of new footage in there, especially from Black Adam.
I gotta say, I actually really dig the look of Dr. Fate.
Okay, cool. I'm in. Yeah, I like that mask, the gold mask over him,
Yeah,
right?
well, it
Yeah.
looks like a Zack Snyder movie, but with color.
Yeah, that's true.
Like what,
Which
like
I think is
watch.
what DC's trying to do right now,
Yeah,
right?
well,
But
watching, like again, like it's only snippets of that, but like I was kind of like, oh, this is what like a Zack Snyder movie would look like if it had like
color correction.
a personality and color correction. So I'm weirdly excited by Vulgarateur Jean-Claude Serra's.
Yeah, I'll always be intrigued by a Jean Colette Serra movie. So
Yeah.
And then you got a little bit of Keaton voice as Batman there, and a glimpse at the Flash costume, which they're just calling the Flash. And then Aquaman, I don't even know if we saw anything from, but we did get a title card for that. Yeah, with Peacemaker, I'm like, I'm and the Batman in a couple weeks. I know it's you talk about DC as a whole. Some of it's DCEU, some of it's Elseworlds on its own universe kind of thing, like the Batman.
Well,
But watch,
Joker as well,
yeah,
right?
Joker, and about watching. I'm on Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, which is the first Matt Reeves Apes movie, and it's just so good. His two Apes movies are so good that I'm just so pumped for the Batman. And then with Peacemaker, I'm
Cody
like,
Smith McPhee in Dawn of the Planet of
yeah,
the Apes as
that is
well,
true.
and
Yeah,
Michael Giacchino did the score.
God, so good. His score for those are so great. Um, so I'm kind of back. I think DC's making some interesting choices. So like, I'm definitely intrigued. With Michael Keaton coming back as well, right? And
Well, you mentioned Peacemaker as well. Even James Gunn's The Suicide
yeah,
Squad was a lot better than, um, it had any right being. And it's the same thing with Peacemaker, where like at the first 3 episodes that we reviewed, I was thinking, like, do we really need a Peacemaker series? And now
but
we're at
they
the end of the
gotcha.
show. They sure did. It truly is a grower and not a shower.
It's
Um,
really good.
and yeah, and now I'm like, I really care about this character. It shows off the strengths of what James Gunn is good at. Like, if you not only if you wanted, another James Gunn sort of continuation of Suicide Squad, but if you were looking for like more of, what he did in Super, or even in, Slither, like his kind of B C tier kind of movies that have, the indie spirit within sort of the filmmaking style. This is that, and it's kind of its own animal compared to the Suicide Squad, but it works really well. And I think John Cena is probably doing his best work
Yeah.
as an
He has a
actor in that
great
show.
moment in the last episode. A couple of great moments that, like, as a dramatic actor, again, we kind of, I'll poke fun at John Cena, but I will give him credit for committing, and that he seems like this role specifically, that he's really kind of all in on it. And there are a couple moments in that last episode, without spoiling anything, where I'm like, damn, okay, like that was really good. Or like, I legitimately teared up when Eagly gave him a hug. I'm like, this is incredible. I just did not expect to care so much about everyone in that show, not just Peacemaker, but like the fucking side characters from the Suicide Squad that are in it, and stuff like that. Yeah, it is great. So that gives me hope that they're giving freedom. Like, it seems like they went through that Zack Snyder phase, and say what you want about those movies. I know there are a select few that do really
Well,
love them,
they're the
but
ones that got the Snyder cut, right?
yeah.
So
Um, but we went through that time and everyone won. The people who love Zack Snyder, you kind of won. You got the Snyder cut. Everyone kind of won. And then we got away from that and we got DC. We got DC to go, you know what? You guys just do whatever the hell you want. Like, just here's some characters. Matt Reeves, do whatever the fuck you want. James Gunn, yeah, do whatever the fuck you want. And like, these movies are sort of in the extended universe. We'll correct that with the Flash. We'll bring back Michael Keaton and we'll just do a whole bunch of wild shit. So like, I'm all for it. So I think everyone wins when it comes to the DC stuff lately. Um, I think we only got a couple more and then we're going to wrap up because it'll just be our trailer reaction show. Father Stew, Eric,
oh no.
anything? I don't
I
know.
don't
It's
have anything other than it is a Christian movie, and
yeah.
again, there's nothing wrong if you're wrong with that. If you're interested in it, that's fine. The one thing I will notice that it's nothing against this movie particular, but Sony seems to be doing this thing now where they're putting subtitles into their trailers, where they'll have the characters talking and the words will come up throughout the
Yes, and we
film.
said that about the Resident Evil one. And then I
Yeah,
went and watched it and you're like, "Oh, that was some weird social media trailer. Like, the normal trailer doesn't have that." But I
Father
don't know
Stu
if
does that as well,
does
and I
it?
think one of the Spider-Man trailers did. Oh no, Uncharted does that. There's an Uncharted trailer that does that as well. Both Mark Wahlberg, so because
But
it's
I think, because if I'm on the YouTube version, that's not happening. But if
right.
you watch it on Twitter or something like that, I think that's when that happens, because they know a lot of people watch on silent and stuff.
Yeah, but it almost looks like it's a part of the film, like the way that like
It's like
Tony Scott,
stylized
yeah,
text.
the way
Yeah.
that Tony Scott would use sort of text in like Man on Fire or Domino or something like that.
Mm.
But it's not. Yeah, Father Stew. I mean, like it's we're getting to that
The
point.
best movie title of all time.
Yeah, well, I mean, originally I think it was just called Stew. And I mean, it
Even
could have
better.
just Stuber. We're getting to that point in Mark Wahlberg's career where, like, obviously he's a man of faith and probably very conservative in his own life. I mean, to the point where, like, he's disavowed something like Boogie Nights. But we've gotten to that moment now where, like, I think he's almost kind of falling into that Chris Pratt camp, where it's like the more of I used to like Mark Wahlberg, and I don't dislike Mark Wahlberg, but there's some roles that he does where it's just like I don't know, and with this it's one of those movies where it's like, okay, like you're trying to kind of like you know tackle the Christian market because it is profitable, and you put like a big name who's still a big name. It's basically like The Fighter but more Christian, and
Sure.
using a fat suit at one point, and
Oh,
also
great.
bringing in Mel Gibson, and you're just like,
Great.
yeah.
One for me, one for God. I was just joking. It's not a big game spot. There's no way that premiered during the football game yesterday. A little trailer for the Adam Project, which is the entire team from Free Guy reuniting.
That's
Um,
Academy Award nominated film, Free
yeah,
Guy.
from the director, star, and producer of Free Guy, what the trailer says. So it's what's his name? Sean Levy, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Who also
uh,
produced Arrival and
yeah,
Stranger Things and
teaming with Ryan
Cheaper by the
Reynolds
Dozen.
again. A time travel movie. Ryan Reynolds is playing, goes back to visit himself. It's got action, sci-fi vibes. It looks pretty generic in my opinion.
Spielbergian.
I'm like, yeah, I don't know. It does nothing for me really.
Well, even that
But
sort of like that staff that he's using, it just looks like a really bad dollar store knockoff
a
of something,
lightsaber,
of a
yeah, or something.
lightsaber, or
Yeah.
or again, like something that Steven Spielberg would use, like the nostalgia elements of
Hmm.
growing up, but kind of having your inner child kind of speak to you in a way. Even the title, The Adam Project, it just kind of feels like kind of just
Netflix is
lazily put
trying so
together.
hard. They're just trying, man. They're just
Yeah.
trying. They're just trying to have that big blockbuster movie,
It
and it's
reminds me
just.
of that Michael Bay produced film, Project Almanac,
Yep.
as
Speaking of
well.
Michael Bay, we got a new ambulance a little clip or trailer, 30 seconds. Very much looks like a Michael Bay movie.
Yeah.
Just a lot of cars exploding and flipping and saturated and Dutch angles and helicopter shots and low angle shots and sweatiness and
What if Michael
uh
Bay directed both Heat and Speed?
yeah.
And is this film going to be over 2.5 hours
I
long?
guarantee it's almost
Probably.
3. Yeah, 100%.
The thing I laughed
Um,
at with the marketing for this so far is that the the title and the posters and the
goes
credits
to
all
LA.
LA.
Yeah. And because the big game was in LA yesterday too, you knew they were like, we got to do it. You got to make sure
Yeah.
the LA pops. You got to make sure the LA pops. Like this shit only happens in LA. Like I don't get it.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. Um and then finally, I don't think I'm missing anything else.
Oh, I just
This
thought of something
morning,
really funny. So
uh,
for the Riddler's Brew, you know how it's do the Dano.
God, I hope it's available here. And then finally today we got a teaser trailer for the Disney erotic thriller Deep Water. So Disney, this is a film that they inherited from 20th Century Fox during the takeover that feels like it's been delayed forever. It is the return of
Adrian Lynn.
Adrian Lynn, who hasn't directed a movie for 20 years. Last one being
Was Unfaithful the last one?
Unfaithful, yeah,
Yeah.
was the last one. Um, Obviously known for the erotic thriller,
Well,
back doing erotic
Fatal
thriller.
Attraction, 9.5
Yeah.
weeks. The movie of his that I really do like, and I always recommend it to people, and it kind of shaped horror in the 90s and early 2000s, was Jacob's Ladder with Tim Robbins. I think
Yeah.
and that's not an erotic thriller at all. It's a psychological thriller. And it has a Jason Alexander in it too, as kind of like a
nice.
disgruntled lawyer. But yeah, that movie is really good. This I think, like, yeah, the delays on top of the very public relationship and breakup of Ben Affleck and Ana de Armas has kind of basically squandered the most important aspect of this film, which is the super erotically charged actor Tracy Letts having a supporting role in this. But I mean, like, you can tell, like, the way that the trailer, it's not really even a teaser, it's just kind of a clip
It's just
from
him
the
getting a
movie.
hand job. Yeah.
And it's kind of setting a tone that's maybe similar to Gone Girl having Ben Affleck in
Yeah.
the film as well. And that's all I have to say.
Yeah, I just think it's interesting that Disney didn't know what the hell to do with it, and then
And Disney's not
now
even releasing it in Canada. It's
no.
Amazon Prime.
Yeah, so they're putting it on because E1 co-produced it. So
Yeah.
that's the weird thing, is like the E1 logo pops up on the American trailer for Hulu. So they definitely, like, I think even co-funded it or something. And then, which is just bizarre. And then the Fox logo nowhere to be found. So it's going to Hulu, kind of like what Palm Springs did and things like that, where it doesn't necessarily get the Searchlight or the 20th Century Studio. Not that Palm Springs was from that studio,
It
but
was
what
Neon. But they Neon and Hulu work together.
yes, on
You
that.
know, yes.
Where if you're looking at the Searchlight and the 20th Century Studios stuff that has gone to Hulu, they are branded 20th Century Studios or Searchlight Pictures. Like there's even the No Escape that's coming out in a couple weeks, right?
Yeah,
There's
or even the Dropout series.
yeah, and stuff like that. So interesting that they just pulled out all of the all of the 20th century branding. It
They
just
blew their
branded
load.
it and branded it Hulu. So I don't know, like, yeah, again, it's like a clip from the movie. They're using it as a teaser.
And that also kind of
Literal.
says, like, okay, like, is it going to be a film that they're already aware that, like, is it truly awful and like they don't know what to do with it? Because
Like
the erotic,
quality wise, you think? Or
yeah, because the erotic thriller
there's a
had its
fine
time
line.
and
Yeah.
place. We talked about it on the 69th episode of this show.
I'm gonna say erotic thriller. They're enjoyable, an enjoyable genre.
Well,
For
I
its
mean,
ridiculousness.
there's still a place for it. I haven't seen it, and I've actually heard that it's not that bad, or at least it's kind of fun. Is the Voyeurs, which is on Amazon Prime as well, or Prime Video. I think it's what they like to be called. But yeah, like you look at, like, you know, the mid 90s, when, you know, Joe Esterhaus was writing a lot of these, and you know, people like Paul Verhoeven were kind of really, you know, taking advantage of the genre, but it also kind of led to a whole bunch of these movies, and then it kind of eventually died off. And you have to wonder, like, again, like any sort of genre, whether it be rom-coms or horror movies, or in this case, you know, eroticism, you know, is the audience going to be on the page for the
Right.
kind of, you know, carnal aspects of the storytelling that are kind of maybe somewhat goofy, like in terms of like what it's like, the dialogue, or, you know, the conflicts that sort of aspire throughout, you know, the narrative. So I could see, you know, this director who kind of made his bread and butter in the late 80s into the 90s, making these kind of movies, approaching the material very similar to the way that he did then, and it not
And
working
translate well,
because
yeah.
it's just old fashioned instead of being quaint and kind of like a
I
sort of
could
a
go for a
throwback.
throwback though. Like I hope, like I think some people will vibe with it, but I get what you're saying with like
Yeah.
which is why they probably were like, we can't put this in theaters. Like they
Yeah.
were probably just like, people aren't going,
Disney's deep water.
there's going to be a specific audience that will probably vibe with it, whether we're laughing at it or we like that it's a throwback, ridiculous 90s erotic thriller, but made in 2022, the year of Father Stew. Um, I I'm just I don't know what to expect, but I'm like, I'm here for it. I think it's a genre that I would love to see a revival from. I agree that I don't know if it works anymore, or how do you do it, especially in like the time we are too, like depending on what the subject matter is. And I know movies can get pretty dark and cover some fucked up stuff, and I don't think anything's really off limits as long as you frame it properly.
Well, even sensuality, right?
Yeah.
Like you look at something like The Power of the Dog and the way that it uses sound in that very
Oh, you could say
provocative
that's an
kind of
erotic thriller.
sensual way. Oh, it is. There are very lurid there's a lurid quality to it. Or even something like Carol, where like it's based on a pulpy novel, and it's turned into kind of more of a prestigious film overall. But yeah, it's not that like the genre can't exist, but what is the genre in the 21st century? Like what is like a straightforward erotic thriller now going to play like, compared to an erotic thriller when again, the internet as well being a place where a lot of adult material is available to people, and it kind of cuts out the middlemen, because
That's
like
fair.
that's kind of like what a lot of people kind of wanted to see the erotic thriller for.
Sure. Yeah, that is fair. But I would say Gone Girl, you already brought it up, a great example of a modern day erotic thriller.
I mean,
Like,
that's a rom-com.
sure. All right.
Also
Thank
has Mountain Dew.
yeah. I think that was it, right? Did we miss anything?
I don't think we
There was Sonic the Hedgehog. There's more Knuckles, so I'm all in on Idris Elba as Knuckles. There's not much else to say there. You obviously got like a new little glimpse at Uncharted. We'll have a review for that coming up very, very soon. Eric and I are seeing that imminently. And also, remember I said Dog Valentine's Day? It's just the movie Dog, but a Valentine's Day trailer.
I
I
hadn't
thought
seen
I
anything
thought
on
there
that
was a
film
movie
until
called
yesterday.
Dog Valentine's Day, and I
It's the
was like,
Channing Tatum
yeah,
co-directed film. There is something in that trailer that made me cringe, that kind of feels really problematic, and it's where there's this scene where he's pretending to be blind.
great.
And I'm just
And
like,
it's
"Oh god."
earnestly, like it's not
Yeah.
like a great. I will briefly touch on a couple other things I don't think we've talked about. I loved the After Yang trailer. We don't need to go into huge detail on that one, but I was catching up on some stuff the other day, and I thought that looked awesome.
It's Double Day of Colin Farrell on March 4th.
Yeah. And I think we'll leave it at that.
Yep.
Thank you all for listening or watching. We really, really do appreciate it. We have a couple other shows that we would love for you guys to check out. If you want to go back and listen to our 114th draft on this channel, we talk about the Oscar nominations, bunch of other stuff. So go check that out in previous episodes with Greg Miller and a whole bunch of stuff. You got 114 other episodes you guys can check out. The 69th draft where we talk about erotic thrillers if you want.
Oh yeah.
We also have
Tonight on Baby Blue.
God, I miss it. An innocent time, we also have a review show, which we just mentioned. We're going to be reviewing Uncharted with Father Stu himself, Mark Wahlberg,
And
and
Sully Sullivan.
Spider-Man himself, Tom Holland. So we'll be having a review up for that very, very soon.
Also Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yes, and I will be watching the first one for the first time, so that should be a fun experience. I know, actually, I've seen the Jessica Biel remake, but I never saw the original. So there's that. Classic Matt.
Produced by Michael Bay.
Classic Matt hasn't seen the original, but he did see the remake. We also have reviews up for Death on the Nile, a full spoiler cast review for Scream or Five Cream, Pam and Tommy, Murderville, the 355, After Party, Peacemaker, Yellow Jackets, tons of reviews. So you go over to Untitled Movie Reviews on YouTube or podcast services. And then one-stop shop for everything. Just head over to Letterboxd. If you're not on Letterboxd, you absolutely should be. Not a sponsor. Too much Mountain Dew, bro. Too much Mountain Dew. Absolutely should be on Letterboxd. And go follow us at Untitled_movies. It's kind of where we post everything. So if you're looking for anything we do, that's the easiest place to find all of it. As always, my name is Matt Rohrbeck. You can find more of my work around the internet, and absolutely on all social medias at Matt Rohrbeck.
And I'm Eric March, and you can find more of my video reviews on rogerstv.com/cinemascene. There's a new episode with friend of the show, Andrew Feigl, and there's also reviews for films like Kimmy, Death on the Nile, Scream, all the stuff most of the stuff we've covered here, but some other additional films. And you can also find me on all the social medias at EM6211.
Until next time.
Do the Dano.